Which one would you like to pick? Pants? Okay, use your duck hand, say the word pants.
Pants.
Excellent. Now,
spelling is based on the English speech sounds. And when we're doing phonics with the word pants, the sounds are p, a, n, t, s, pants. Even if you say pants or any other variation of pants. This child translated it to the British speech sounds. Listen again. The Australian teacher says pants and the child says p, a. So the second sound when the teacher said it is pants, but the child says a, pants, and actually says the word is pants. Well done to the student.
pants? Okay, use your duck hand, say the word pants.
Pants.
Excellent. Now,
But this is definitely something to talk about, because when you're teaching phonics, you're expecting the child to look at an A in the green code level, the first code level. You're expecting them to look at an A and say, ah. Now, people who don't speak English as a first language use the IPA a lot to work out how to say a word. So we look at PAN. Well, they'll look at the IPA representation to say, so they know how to say it. The second sound in the word is shown like this, that funny squiggle there. This is the at monster. And that tells the person who's trying to work out how to say the word in English, that tells them that that sound is a. So just have a look at the symbols for pan. This is how a child who doesn't speak English, or an adult who doesn't speak English, this is how they would work it out. And that is how the written code is represented. It's the speech sounds, the phonemes represented, and here it just shows the IPA, the symbol representing those speech sounds, those phonemes. That's what reading and spelling is, a representation of the phonemes, but it's not necessarily the representation of your phonemes, of your accent. When it comes to reading and spelling, it's different, and that's part of the reason why teaching reading and spelling is so difficult, and that's why I share what I do with SSP, because teachers need to understand this so they can effectively meet the needs of the children.
You go to a website like McMillan for the pronunciation. There you see the phonemic, they're these symbols. P, a, So the monsters, monster put, monster at, monster pan, put at and pan. And it's also nice here because you can actually play each one to hear the sound. So let's play that a.
Cat.
Cat.
Poor phonemic awareness is, we know from 30 years of research, the best predictor of reading failure there is, poor phonemic awareness. It's when a child can't hear in the word ant that it consists of the three phonemes a, n, t, which when blended together form the word ant. We build the word ant using those speech sounds. And it's not natural to think about the speech sounds. We don't do that whilst we're talking. And it only becomes necessary to be able to do this when they have to learn to read and spell. So the children can have great language skills. They can be really articulate, really clever, really intelligent. But unless you're specifically focusing on phonemic awareness, it can be a long time before you realise the child has got poor phonemic awareness, so you can do something about it. That's why we're getting toddlers speaking in speech sounds and being able to point to words when you say the speech sounds. So if you say dog, that they point to the word dog, even if they can't actually yet say it, but they start to be able to speak in speech sounds using their duck hands. That's why we're doing it more or less from birth. What we're doing is actually wiring their brains so that they will be able to read and spell without difficulties, because they will be able to use the phonemic awareness to be able to use phonics for the decoding part of reading and for the encoding, which is spelling. We're setting it in place. We're just getting our ducks in a row. So phonemic awareness, so they can use phonics, so they can use the phonics with fluency and comprehension, which is reading. It all just flows and it all just makes sense, and we avoid any difficulties. We are immunising our children against illiteracy in preschool using the monster routine. But this is interesting, isn't it, here? When you say the word ain't, there's nothing wrong with how you say the word if you're an Australian, or think about if you're in New Zealand and you'll say, let's have some chups for dinner. That's fine, that's how you say it, but spelling is actually based around phonics. So it's based around actually children, when you think about when you say sound it out, I'm a New Zealand student, I'm a student in New Zealand, I'm going to sound out the word chups. Ch-ups, chups. So what's the problem? The problem is the spelling isn't based on your phonemes, on your speech sounds. The spelling is based on how the speech sound king would say the word. That's why we have the speech sound king, and that's why it's very, very useful that I speak with an English accent. Because the children hear me say chips. Oh, so the spelling is based on how Miss Emma says it, chips. Ch-ips, which could be the I. Now, when you are a reader and you can spell, you don't realise how much you translate the code according to how you use the code when you are talking, depending on where you live, your accents and what have you. But when we're teaching children, regardless of which country they're learning in, we have to introduce the phonics based on the phonemes that the phonics is including. So if your first group of phonics in your teaching is s, at, p, it, n, those are the phonemes. You can't change them. It doesn't matter if you use different sounds in different words because of your accent. You have to build the words using those sounds. Now, this particular teacher here, this is why it made me laugh out loud when I heard this, because this is one of the most wonderful SSP teachers I've ever met. She's just brilliant. I mean, absolutely brilliant. And it just goes to show that here she's not even having to really think about it, because the child has translated the sounds into the correct phonemes. So she says pants. Actually, probably can't even hear that she's not saying pants. That she's paying pants. She's probably not even consciously aware of it, but it doesn't matter because this child is translating it for her into the Miss Emma sounds. So this child is brilliant, but it made me chuckle because this is such a good SSP teacher. So it doesn't matter how experienced you are, how fantastic of a teacher you are, when you're teaching phonics, you are teaching the phonemes and the link to the letters in that phonics group, regardless of if you translate it. So even if you say pants, I don't say it like that, I say pants. That's fine, and actually that's what we do with the children. We talk about it. The spelling is not going to change, but we're exploring it all the time. A prep child I met last year in South Australia really made me chuckle because he said, you always remind me of how to spell grass, because you say g-r-ass, grass, which is a purple code level word. We've looked at g-r-ass, grass. So she said, you say grass. So it's those sounds, g-r-ass, grass, and it helps me remember because I say grass. So the third speech sound when he says it is an R, and we don't actually look at the A as a representation for R until the blue code level. But because he's discovering this, I'm able to then say to him, well, let's have a look. Is the A, can that be a representation for R? Let's have a look in the cloud. Yes, it can. And actually we do say grass or we do say grass. This is how you spell it. The spelling doesn't change, but it's the discussions, and that's why I'm so vocal about the fact that phonics, yes, we're teaching it systematically and explicitly, but there's also an awful lot of inquiry, learning and problem solving that has to go into this. Otherwise, the children will not make sense of this written code that we have. We need it to make sense, and we need it to be really simple.